What happens when a royal prince walks onto America's most irreverent late-night show expecting softball questions, only to face the one host who treats everyone from presidents to pop stars with the same razor-sharp wit? The studio lights dimmed. The audience held their breath, and what followed was 20 minutes of television that nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because you won't want to miss what happens next. The moment Prince Harry walked onto the set, something felt different. The usual warm applause seemed hesitant, scattered, like raindrops before a storm. Jon Stewart stood behind his desk, that familiar smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. But his eyes held something sharper tonight. "Your Royal Highness," Stewart began, the title rolling off his tongue with just enough emphasis to make it sound like a question rather than a greeting. "Or do you prefer just Harry now? I can never keep track of which titles you're keeping and which ones you're auctioning off to Netflix." The audience laughed, but it was nervous laughter. The kind that fills a room when everyone knows they're witnessing something they probably shouldn't be. Harry's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly as he settled into the guest chair. "Jon, always a pleasure," Harry replied, his British accent cutting through the studio air. "I see you're starting strong tonight." "Well, you know me," Stewart leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "I like to match the energy in the room, and speaking of energy, let's talk about your new documentary series. Another one. How many is this now? I've lost count. Is there like a punch card system? 10 documentaries, and you get a free therapist session." The prince shifted slightly, maintaining his composure. "We're telling important stories, Jon. Stories that need to be heard. Stories that need to be heard," Stewart repeated, nodding. "Slowly, right? Because if there's one thing the world was missing, it was more content about the British royal family. We were all just walking around thinking, you know what I need? Another 6 hours of princely perspectives. That's rather reductive, don't you think?" Harry's voice carried an edge now, polished but pointed. "Is it, though?" Stewart picked up a stack of papers from his desk. "Because I've got your press releases here, let me see. Never-before-seen footage, shocking revelations. The truth. Behind palace walls, Harry buddy, at what point does never-before-seen just become stuff we held back from the last documentary to make another documentary?" The studio temperature seemed to drop several degrees. Harry's spokesperson had specifically requested certain topics remain off-limits, but Stewart had clearly thrown that agreement out the window. "I think you're misunderstanding the purpose," Harry said, his diplomatic training kicking in. "We're trying to shed light on important issues: mental health, institutional racism, the pressures of public life." "I understand perfectly," Stewart interrupted. "You're shedding light from your mansion in Montecito through a multi-million-dollar production deal. I mean, nothing says man of the people quite like complaining about your family through a streaming service that most people can't afford." A collective intake of breath from the audience. This wasn't the usual celebrity interview banter. This was something else entirely. "That's not fair, Jon." Harry's voice remained steady, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair. "You're oversimplifying a complex situation." "Am I? Because from where I'm standing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you left the royal family to escape media scrutiny and then signed deals with media companies to talk about leaving the royal family. It's like quitting drinking by opening a bar." "We left to protect our family," Harry said firmly, "to live authentically." Authentically, Stewart savored the word. "That's interesting. So, authentic means what exactly? Because I looked it up, and nowhere in the definition did it mention appearing on Oprah, or writing tell-all books, or producing content for streaming platforms. Maybe I have an old dictionary." "You're being deliberately obtuse." Harry's composure began to crack. "We're using our platform to make a difference." "Your platform?" Stewart leaned back in his chair. "The platform you said you didn't want? The platform you left England to? Escape that platform. It's not that simple." "Then explain it to me." "Because I'm just a simple comedian trying to understand how someone escapes the spotlight by diving headfirst into Hollywood. Help me connect those dots." Harry took a breath, clearly trying to center himself. When you have the ability to influence positive change, you have a responsibility to use it. "Absolutely. 100% agree," Stewart nodded enthusiastically. "So let's talk about that positive change. Your documentary mentions the environment quite a bit. Very passionate about climate change, which is admirable. Quick question though, how many private jet flights have you taken this year? The prince's face flushed slightly. That's not relevant to it's not, because if I made a documentary about saving the whales while simultaneously harpooning them, I feel like someone might mention the contradiction. We offset our carbon emissions, Harry said through gritted teeth. Oh, you offset them? Well, that's different then. It's like cheating on your spouse but buying them flowers after. The flowers offset the affair. That's a ridiculous comparison, is it? You're literally selling the public on your environmental consciousness while leaving a carbon footprint the size of Buckingham Palace. But hey, you planted some trees, so we're all good. The audience had gone completely quiet now, watching this verbal tennis match with rapt attention. Harry's usual media training seemed to be failing him, and Stewart showed no signs of letting up. You know what, Jon? Harry leaned forward, his voice taking on a harder edge. It's easy to sit behind that desk and take shots at people who are actually trying to make a difference. Oh, we're going there. Stewart's eyebrows shot up. Okay, let's go there. You're right, I do sit behind this desk. You know what I don't? I don't lecture people about privilege while cashing checks from corporations. I don't preach about privacy while documenting every thought that crosses my mind. And I definitely don't claim to be trapped while holding the keys to the cage. You have no idea what it's like. Harry's voice rose slightly. The pressure, the scrutiny, the complete lack of freedom. Freedom, Stewart almost whispered the word. You keep using that word. Let's examine that. You were born into unimaginable wealth and privilege. You had the best education money could buy. You've traveled the world. You married whoever you wanted. You left whenever you wanted. You're currently promoting your 4th or 5th project about how hard your life has been. If that's not freedom, then I need a new dictionary to go with the one that doesn't properly define authentic. Harry stood up abruptly, the sudden movement causing the audience to gasp. This is exactly the kind of toxic media behavior we're trying to expose. No. Stewart stood as well. Don't do that. Don't play the victim card when someone asks you legitimate questions. That's not toxic media behavior. That's called accountability. Something you might not be familiar with. Having grown up in an institution that's existed for 1,000 years without anyone questioning it. I've been held accountable my entire life, Harry shot back, his royal composure completely abandoned now. By who? The same press you're now partnering with. The same public whose sympathy you're monetizing. Or by the family you've spent 3 years publicly lambasting while simultaneously trading on their name. I don't have to stand here and listen to this. Harry began to remove his microphone. You're right, you don't, Stewart agreed. You can leave. You're very good at that. It's kind of your thing now, isn't it? Things get difficult, questions get hard, and suddenly it's time to go. But here's the thing, Harry. You can't keep running from the conversation and then selling tickets to watch you run. At some point, people are going to notice the pattern. Harry paused, microphone half removed, his face a mixture of anger and something else, perhaps recognition. You think you're so clever, Harry said quietly, sitting there with your jokes and your cynicism. But what have you actually done? What difference have you made? Stewart's expression softened slightly, but his words remained sharp. I've asked questions. I've held powerful people accountable. I've never claimed to be anything other than what I am. Can you say the same? The question hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. Harry stood frozen, microphone dangling from his collar, caught between his instinct to leave and the realization that doing so would prove Stewart's point. That's what I thought, Stewart continued when Harry didn't immediately respond. See, the difference between us is that I'm a court jester. I'm supposed to poke fun at the powerful. You were the powerful, and now you're what exactly? A content creator with a royal backstory. Harry slowly reattached his microphone, his movements deliberate. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled. You want to know what I am, Jon? I'm someone who chose love over duty. I'm someone who refused to let my wife be destroyed by the same system that killed my mother. If that makes me a sellout, in your eyes, so be it. Oh, we're going there. Stewart rubbed his face with both hands. All right, let's talk about that. Your mother was hounded by paparazzi. Absolutely tragic. No one disputes that. So your solution was to move to Los Angeles, the paparazzi capital of the world, and then complain about photographers while posing for magazine covers. Help me understand the logic. We didn't choose to be followed. We didn't choose to have our every move documented, but you did choose to document your every move yourself. There's a slight difference between being pursued by photographers and hiring a film crew to follow you around. One is invasion of privacy. The other is literally producing content. We're telling our truth, Harry insisted. Your truth, Stewart repeated. Can we talk about that phrase for a second? When did we start having individual truths? What happened to the truth, the objective, verifiable, everyone can agree on it, truth? Because your truth seems to change depending on which platform is paying for it. That's not true, really, because in your book, you said one thing about your brother. In your documentary, you said something slightly different. In your interviews, the story shifts again. It's like Truth Mad Libs, just fill in whatever version sells best this week. Harry's hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. You're twisting everything I say. I'm literally quoting you. Stewart pulled out a tablet. Would you like me to read some passages? I've got them highlighted. There's some real gems in here. My personal favorite is when you describe your privileged upbringing as traumatic, while also fondly recalling your multiple gap years and ski trips. Trauma doesn't discriminate based on wealth, Harry said defensively. You're absolutely right. Rich people can have problems too, but there's a difference between having problems and monetizing them while pretending you're doing it for altruistic reasons. At least the Kardashians are honest about what they're doing. How dare you compare us to what? Reality TV stars. What exactly do you think you are at this point? You're literally starring in your own reality series. The only difference is they don't pretend they're saving the world while doing it. The audience was riveted, some recording on their phones despite the studio's policy. This was the kind of television moment that would be dissected on social media for weeks. We've donated millions to charity, Harry said, grasping for solid ground. From the money you made selling your family drama, Stewart countered. That's like robbing a bank and then donating some of the money to the food bank. Sure, the food bank benefits, but let's not pretend you're Robin Hood. You're being completely unfair, am I? Name one revelation from your documentaries that actually helped anyone besides your bank account. One actual change that came from all these truth bombs you've been dropping. Harry opened his mouth, then closed it again. Take your time, Stewart said. I'll wait. The audience will wait. We've got nowhere else to be. We've raised awareness about mental health issues by talking about your own therapy sessions. That's not raising awareness. That's just talking about yourself and calling it activism. It's like me claiming I'm fighting world hunger by describing my lunch. You're reducing everything to its most cynical interpretation, and you're inflating everything to its most noble interpretation. The truth, the actual truth, not your truth or my truth, is probably somewhere in the middle. But that doesn't sell documentaries, does it? What do you want from me, Jon? Harry's voice cracked slightly. What would satisfy you? Should I have stayed silent? Should I have just accepted whatever was thrown at me and my family? I want consistency, Stewart leaned forward. If you want privacy, seek privacy. If you want publicity, seek publicity. But don't seek publicity while complaining about publicity. Don't sell your story while claiming you just want to be left alone. Pick a lane. Life isn't that simple. Life isn't, but choices are. You made a choice to leave. Respectable, you made a choice to speak out. Also respectable, you made a choice to turn it into a cottage industry. That's where you lose people. We're trying to support ourselves. Stewart laughed. Actually laughed. Support yourselves. Harry, you were born with more money than most people see in a lifetime. Your wife was a successful actress. You could have lived quietly and comfortably, forever. This isn't about support. This is about maintaining a lifestyle and relevance. Relevance? Harry's voice went up an octave. You think I care about relevance? Then why are you here? Why are you on your 5th documentary? Why are you writing books and giving interviews and producing podcasts? If you don't care about relevance, you're doing an awful lot of work to stay relevant. Because people deserve to know the truth about what goes on behind palace walls. Do they, though? Do people deserve that? Or do people deserve clean water and healthcare and education? Because you keep talking about what people deserve while selling them gossip disguised as revolution. Harry was pacing now, 3 steps one way, 3 steps back, like a caged animal. You have no idea what it was like. The pressure, the expectations, the complete lack of autonomy. You're right, I don't, Stewart conceded, But I also didn't sign up for it. You knew what being a royal meant. It's not like they surprise you with it at 18. Surprise, you're a prince. You were born into it, raised in it, benefited from it for 30+ years, and then decided it wasn't for you. Fine, but don't act like you're some freedom fighter because you decided the golden cage wasn't shiny enough. My mother died because of this system. Harry's voice was raw now. Your mother died because of a drunk driver. Stewart's voice softened but remained firm. Yes, they were being chased by paparazzi, and that's horrible. But you've turned her death into a branded narrative that you roll out whenever someone questions your motives. That's not honoring her memory, that's exploiting it. The studio fell completely silent. Even the camera operators seemed to be holding their breath. "How dare you?" Harry whispered. "How dare I?" "What?" "Say what everyone's thinking. Point out the obvious contradictions. Ask the questions your hand-picked interviewers won't. This is what actual journalism looks like, Harry. It's uncomfortable. It's challenging. It doesn't come with a producer credit and Final Cut approval. This isn't journalism. It's a hit job. A hit job." Stewart threw his hands up. "I'm asking you about your own words, your own actions, your own choices. If that feels like a hit job, maybe the problem isn't with the questions." Harry stopped pacing, turning to face Stewart directly. "You know what? You're right about one thing. I did have choices, and I chose to protect my family. I chose to speak up about injustice. I chose to use whatever platform I have to make a difference. If you want to reduce that to money and fame, that's your cynicism, not my reality." "But that's just it." Stewart stood again, matching Harry's intensity. "You didn't just choose to protect your family, you chose to protect your family publicly. You didn't just speak up about injustices, you spoke up about injustices for profit. Every noble thing you claim to have done has a price tag attached to it. And that's fine. Make your money, but don't pretend it's philanthropy. So what would you have me do? Give everything away? Live in poverty to prove my sincerity? No, just stop pretending you're something you're not. You're not a revolutionary. You're not a humanitarian. You're a guy who left a job he didn't like and is now making money talking about how much he didn't like it. That's fine. That's literally half of Hollywood. Just own it." "I am owning it," Harry insisted. "I'm owning my story, my experience, my truth." "There's that phrase again." Stewart shook his head. "Your truth. You know what? Let's test your truth. You said in your book that you killed 25 Taliban fighters in Afghanistan. You counted them like they were points in a video game. Is that your truth or the truth?" Harry's face went pale. "That was taken out of context. Was it because you wrote it? In your own book? With your own words? How much context does I killed 25 people Nia? I was serving my country. Were you? Or were you playing soldier while real soldiers, people without trust funds and backup plans, were dying around you? Because there's a difference between serving your country and tourism with better weapons. I did 2 tours in Afghanistan." Harry's voice was shaking now. "You did, behind more security than most soldiers see in a lifetime, with the knowledge that you could leave whenever you wanted, with a publicist ready to spin whatever story you needed. That's not the same experience as some kid from Birmingham who joined because it was that or unemployment. You're diminishing my service. I'm contextualizing your service, just like I'm contextualizing everything else. You want credit for the hard parts while ignoring the privileges that made them easier. You can't have it both ways." The breaking point had arrived. Harry's face was flushed, his carefully styled hair slightly disheveled from running his hands through it. Stewart remained behind his desk, but his usual comedic demeanor had been replaced by something sharper, more surgical. "You want to talk about having it both ways?" Harry's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Let's talk about you, Jon, sitting there in your tailored suit, making millions from mocking people who actually put themselves on the line. When was the last time you risked anything?" "Every night," Stewart replied without hesitation. "Every time I ask a question that publicists don't want asked. Every time I refuse to play along with the pre-approved narrative. The difference is, I don't pretend I'm saving the world. I'm just trying to cut through the nonsense. Nonsense, is that what you call my life experience? I call it what it is. A product, packaged, marketed, and sold to the highest bidder. You're not sharing your experience, you're monetizing it. There's a fundamental difference." Harry laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think you're so morally superior? But you're doing exactly the same thing, profiting from other people's stories, turning real issues into punchlines. Except I'm not claiming to be a victim while doing it, Stewart shot back. I'm not asking for sympathy while cashing checks. I'm not pretending my comedy special is a humanitarian mission. Everything I've done has been to shine a light on important issues, Harry insisted, his voice growing louder. Name one issue that wasn't directly about you, Stewart challenged. Mental health? Your mental health. Press intrusion. Press intrusion into your life. Racism. Racism against your wife. When do you shine a light on anything that doesn't have you at the center of it? That's how personal storytelling works. You share your experience to help others, but you're not helping others. You're helping yourself to another payday while claiming it's for the greater good. It's narcissism dressed up as altruism. Narcissism. Harry took a step toward the desk. You want to talk about narcissism? How about a comedian who thinks his opinions are so important that he needs a nightly platform to share them? The difference is, I call it what it is. Entertainment. Commentary, not a movement. Not a revolution, not truth-telling. Just a guy with opinions and a platform. See how easy that is to admit? The two men stared at each other across the desk. The tension in the studio, thick enough to cut. Someone in the audience coughed. The sound explosively loud in the silence. You know what your problem is, Jon? Harry said finally. You've become so cynical that you can't believe anyone might actually want to do good. And you've become so deluded that you can't see how transparent your motivations are, Stewart responded. You want to do good? Great. Do it quietly. Do it without cameras. Do it without book deals and streaming contracts. Mother Teresa didn't have a Netflix deal. Mother Teresa also didn't have a platform that could reach millions. She reached millions anyway, through action, not content creation. But that's hard. That takes decades. That doesn't come with red carpet premieres and Oprah interviews. Harry's composure finally shattered completely. You sanctimonious hypocrite. You sit there judging everyone else while contributing nothing but snark and cynicism. At least I'm trying to make a difference. By stowing your family secrets, Stewart's voice rose to match Harry's. By turning your grandmother's funeral into a scene in your documentary, by treating your brother like a plot device in your personal narrative, that's not making a difference, that's making a profit. I never wanted any of this. Then why are you doing it? No one's forcing you to produce documentaries. No one's making you write books. No one's holding a gun to your head saying share. Your trauma for money or else. These are choices, Harry, your choices. Easy for you to say, you haven't lived my life. No, but I've lived a life. And I've managed to do it without constantly telling everyone how hard it is while simultaneously profiting from that hardship. Millions of people face actual adversity every day without turning it into a multimedia empire. So I should just shut up and disappear. Or speak up without a price tag. Radical concept, I know. Share your story in a single interview. Donate. Any proceeds to charity and then live your life. But that wouldn't maintain the lifestyle, would it? Harry was practically vibrating with anger now. You have no idea what we've sacrificed. Sacrificed? Stewart stood up fully, his voice incredulous. You live in a mansion in California. You have millions in the bank. You have healthy children and a loving wife. What exactly have you sacrificed? Besides the ability to be a working royal, which you claim you hated anyway, our privacy, our safety, our relationship with my family, your privacy that you sold, your safety that you compromised by telling everyone your location, and daily, routine, your family relationships that you torched for content, these aren't sacrifices, they're trades, and you made them willingly. I'm done, Harry started pulling at his microphone again. This isn't an interview, it's an ambush. It's accountability, Stewart corrected. Something you've been running from since you left London. But here's the thing about accountability. It follows you. You can't outrun it with private jets or hide from it in gated communities. Eventually, someone's going to ask the real questions. Harry finally got his microphone off, throwing it on the chair. You know nothing about me, nothing about what I've been through. I know what you've told us, Stewart said calmly, over and over again. In books, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, you've made sure we all know exactly what you've been through. The question is, when does the telling become the point? When does the story become more important than the life? Without another word, Harry turned and walked off the set, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence of the studio. The cameras kept rolling, capturing Stewart standing alone behind his desk, watching the empty space where Prince had stood moments before. "Well," Stewart said finally, turning to the audience, "I guess that's what happens when you ask follow-up questions." The audience erupted in nervous applause and chatter as the show cut to commercial, leaving millions of viewers to process what they had just witnessed. A real conversation, unfiltered and unscripted, between two men who couldn't have been further apart in their understanding of truth, privilege, and purpose. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, make sure to subscribe for more compelling content.